Hey everybody, it's Emma. Welcome to this video with my new hair, which I'm utterly in love with. Today I wanted to do a get ready with me sort of video using my new love, the Anastasia Subculture palette. This was a pretty controversial palette when it came out, and after watching an absurd amount of reviews, I decided to pick it up because I'm just totally in love with the colors, and after watching a bunch of reviews, it seemed like something that I could work with. I've had this for 2 weeks now and have used it pretty much every day that I have done my makeup. I have filmed a few videos using this, but none of them have really come out that well. Mostly because I'll have like half an hour and try to film a video really quick and it's just messy and jumbled and kind of awful. So this will be hopefully the first video that actually makes it onto my channel. I would be happy to do a more in-depth review of it, swatches, all that stuff, and I will definitely be doing more looks with it than just this video. So if there's anything in particular you're interested in or anything in particular you want to see, let me know. I think today, since this will be the first video actually on my channel, I'm going to do the first look that I ever did with this, where I tried to fit as many of these shades on the face as possible. I just find this to be a really inspiring palette. Every time I've used it, in the middle of doing a look that I'm already excited about, I start thinking about all the other things that I could do. So I'm really enjoying this palette. I know it's not for everybody, but for me, it's fantastic. But let's dive in. I'm gonna start priming my eyes as always with the Wet n Wild PhotoFocus eyeshadow primer. Now I found Stephanie Nicole's video on this palette to be especially helpful in terms of little tips and tricks on how to use it. She mentioned if you're using a tackier base to powder it first to help with blending. I honestly haven't had too many issues with blending. I've used the palette both powdering my primer and not powdering my primer, and it seems to work out pretty well either way. But just for funsies, I'll powder that down a little bit, just using the Wet n Wild, the newer at this point, PhotoFocus powder, which honestly, it's not my favorite. I actually really prefer the coverall powder, just because I think that I have oily, I don't think I have oily skin. I think the reason that I prefer it is that I have oilier skin, and it's quite, I always feel like my brush is wet when I apply this over my foundation. It feels kind of gross. It doesn't claim to mattify or anything like that, so you know, but it doesn't, and I think I prefer a powder that has a little bit more mattifyingness. I'm gonna start using a Real Techniques base shadow brush. Another tip that Stephanie Nicole mentioned in her video is just very lightly tapping into one of the pans, kind of placing the shadow on and then blending, rather than kind of swiping and swiping, if that makes any sense, which I feel like that's kind of how I do my makeup anyway, which is one of the reasons I figured this palette would be good for me. And also this color. Oh my god. So I'm going to start with Axis. So just very lightly tapping in, and I always do the little thing here. I'm going to work this into a bit of a wing shape. So you can see, you know, what you apply, you can blend that out a little bit for sure. But where you place product is where it's going to be, if that makes any sense. You've seen this look. If you follow me on Instagram, I had been posting the different looks that I have done. That information is always in the description box if you want to check it out. And just know that my Instagram is not just makeup, it's me. So there'll be yoga stuff and lots of cats and food and makeup. So hopefully you can see how it does spread, but if you want a diffused look, you need a different method, which I'll talk about probably in a different video because this look is very structured. I also find that there's like zero fallout with this palette when I'm using it on my face. I know fallout and powdery shadows and stuff was a big complaint with this palette, but I really have not experienced that at all. I have heard some conspiracy theories that the newer palettes are pressed a little bit differently than the original launch, so I don't know. Now I'm going to go into Untamed, which is a earthy green with a little bit of blue in it. I'm going to place that right next to Axis. This is going to be, well, you saw the thumbnail. This is going to be a sort of gradient, rainbowy look. Because there are so many contrasting colors in this palette, and I think most people, especially, you know, watching YouTube and stuff, how YouTubers tend to do their makeup, you know, it's lots of different shadows all blended together. And if you try to do that with this palette, you're going to have a muddy mess because, you know, a lot of these colors are contrasting colors, complementary colors. So, but these colors that are close to each other blend just fine. It's just, you know, something to keep in mind. I'm going to put, I forget if I actually did this in the first look, but I'm going to put a little bit of Destiny right next to that. I'm going to put Electric, which is one of the lonely shimmers in this palette, kind of on top of it, but that's going to be the base. Destiny is also a really pretty earthy green, but it's more of a kind of khaki olive compared to Untamed. While these colors are all kind of the same-ish, same family, blend the top edge, end isn't really the right word, with a fluffier brush. Turn so you can actually see. So it doesn't really move stuff around too much. So again, just, you know, be aware. Next I'm going to use New Wave, which is kind of a mac and cheese sort of golden orange color. Saffron, if you will. Place that next to Destiny. I don't necessarily want to blend those colors in together too much. Just kind of let them meet up. Colors definitely benefit from a pat and blend rather than swiping. Finally, on the top lid, I'm going to go into Edge, which is kind of a mustardy yellow. It does not look like much in the pan, not gonna lie, but I actually like it a whole lot, and I'm gonna bring that to the inner part of the lid. Now I've just been using the same brush, kind of wiping it off on my leg because I'm a professional, and the colors aren't getting all muddy together, which is pretty cool. I'm just gonna use that end blend those yellowy colors. Before I move on to the lower lash line, I'm going to switch brushes real quick. I'm going to use the shading brush from Real Techniques. Go into Electric. So there are 3 shimmers in this palette: Electric, Cube, and Adorn. And I actually have found these 2, Electric and Cube, are duochromes. And I found these the most interesting to work with. I think because I would assume, being a shimmery shade, just dig my finger in there, pat it on, be good to go. Doesn't work like that. This, just like the mattes, I'm going to place that right in between, you know, almost on top of Destiny, where the yellowy colors and the green colors combine. You can see it shows up. I do find it takes a little bit of layering though. The more you kind of work it in, the more it shows up. And then once again, taking that fluffy brush along the top edge. Okay, off camera I applied this Wet n Wild UltimateBrow highlighter pencil on the inner rim because I'm going to use some kind of reddy purpley shades on the lower lash line. I want to apply my concealer first though, and as usual I'm using the Wet n Wild PhotoFocus concealer. Blend that in with a Real Techniques Deluxe Crease Brush. And I'll set that with the same Wet n Wild pressed powder. This, by the way, is in the shade Warm Light, which is, I believe, the lightest shade it comes in. Works well for my skin. It's definitely a nice powder. It's just, I think, would be better for people with drier skin. Although it's very nice for under the eyes. Alright, so I'm going to put Cube along the inner corner. This is a really interesting shade. Even people who like this palette aren't necessarily a big fan of this shade. I'm pretty sure it got an F on Temptalia. I don't mind it so much, but I have only used it so far on the inner corner. It doesn't necessarily show up as a ton of pigment. It looks like it would be a white. But it just kind of leaves a pinky sheen on the skin. So it actually looks very much like the promo photos for this palette. Obviously those are edited. Okay, I'm going to go into New Wave first just to kind of blend the top and bottom lash line, and then I'm going to use different colors. Bring that into the first little section, mirroring the top half. And then I'm going into All Star. Bring that almost to the outer edge. Super pigmented. I'm gonna wipe off my brush. And then just blend New Wave and All Star in together a little bit more. So you can see those colors that go together blend quite nicely. And then finally, I'm going to take Rowdy along that outer corner and bring it up along the outer edge of Axis. And that is the eyeshadow pretty much done. Now just to play with it, there are four colors, just kidding, there are 4 colors that I have not used at all yet, even though I've used this palette like 10 times. Honestly, it's all the more kind of neutral shades. Mercury, Dawn, Fudge, and Roxy I haven't really played with yet. I am going to very lightly tap my fluffy brush into Dawn. Just kind of experiment. This I didn't do in that first look. I'm just going to experiment with blending that into the upper edge just to smooth it out a little bit and bring it all together without actually blending the colors together. Alright, I definitely need some mascara. I'm going to use my Essence Lash Princess Sculpted volume. Been seeing so many posts about the Lash Princess mascaras on different makeup Reddits lately. Although I notice almost none of them say which Lash Princess, because because there are at least, well, definitely 2, if not more. I obviously want to take down some of this redness, but I also want my freckles to show through, so I'm going to use the Serum Foundation from The Ordinary. Now, I do have some of The Ordinary primer on my face. I keep trying to use the high adherence one. And I keep finding that I just have a problem of it pilling up. If you haven't seen my review, I'll link it in a card. I love the feel of that primer. And if it actually stays on my skin, it really does help both the appearance and the longevity of this, specifically this foundation, but the other Ordinary foundation and other foundations that I have. But it just gathers up and balls so badly. It did stay on my nose though, which is my problem area. And because I have bangs now, I'm not gonna bother bringing makeup up there. Really love these bangs. Every like 3 years, I'm like, I want fringe bangs. And every time I get them, I'm like, shit, I look like a mushroom. This is not the look I was going for. But my hairdresser now is amazing and did good bangs. I'm really, really, really loving them. Setting all that with that same Wet n Wild powder. Using an e.l.f. Complexion Brush. Sorry, I keep staring over there, but I can see myself on the monitor and use that as a bit of a mirror. But it always annoys me when I'm editing, looking over there. For blush, I've been using this e.l.f. blush palette because it's here and I'm lazy. I think, let's see, these are mostly the dark shades and one palette from the light, or one pan from the light palette. I've really been enjoying this kind of neutral bronzery shade. So I'm going to use that on an e.l.f. blush brush. Almost use it like a bronzer. Love this eye look. Love this palette so much. It's crazy. I was so nervous to get it. I know I can return it. No big deal. I hate doing that. So glad I went for it. I think I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to bring a little bit of this down my neck. Highlighter, I've really been reaching for this one a lot this month. This is the Sweetest Bling from Wet n Wild. I'll add a little bit more pinkiness. It's a really pretty highlighter though. It looks shiny rather than glittery. Again, because I'm lazy, I don't really feel like getting up and grabbing a different lip color. The ones around me are all pretty intense and out there, so I'm going to use this e.l.f. Gotta Glow lip tint in Perfect Berry because it's a nice sheer color. I think it'll go nicely with this. There we have the finished look. I am obsessed with this palette. I love it so very much. I am totally inspired by it. Like I said, every time I use it, even as I'm in the middle of doing stuff, I'm thinking of other things to do. Like, I thought a cool either video or series would be a look inspired by every season. I feel like that could be really cool. You know, going into all the little quads. I don't know. Let me know if you'd like to see any of that, what you'd like to see, if you'd like a more in-depth review of this palette. Also, let me know if you've tried it, if you've played with it, if you loved it, if you hated it. Let me know it all in the comments section below. And in the meantime, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, to comment if you do, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.